Today's Interstellar episode is brought to you by Space Drop, now streaming on Amazon Prime. Great show with a charming host, all about how the average person would endure the extreme isolation of space. And The Liberal Conspiracy is now streaming on Squabble, your destination for unintelligible cable news bites.
And after the third card trick.
This is The Liberal Conspiracy. There is only one thing these days Democrats and Republicans agree on. Space is cool. Let's discuss the current goals of our space program. Space Force, the new military faction this administration started, it actually makes some sense. We have an Air Force to take to the skies and protect against inbound threats. This is essentially an extension taking that program to higher skies. For now, more about bad actors messing with satellites and honoring treaties, and less TIE fighters. The level of preemption and name brand by Mattel, though, does raise some eyebrows. We started an army to make sure we all share. There are going to be a lot of interests when we do Columbus real estate off-planet. Colonizing without regulation between space agencies and private companies like SpaceX and traffic control leaving this rock could get dicey. There are varied interests selling moon rocks, and if that star your parents named after you gives them eminent domain to harvest a supernova. This space stuff doesn't work in a vacuum. It is a vacuum. It takes cooperation. The space race now is more of a friendly relay. That's nice. But there is some vested interest in getting there first. First gets to determine how we share, and picks out the best plot of moonland to set up their research. This is actually hugely important because on the poles there's like a quarter-mile patch that gets partial sunlight year-round. Everywhere else has to join Pink Floyd on the dark side of the moon half the time. You know, orbits. That's the difference of learning how to live in negative 208 degrees Fahrenheit and 25 Kelvin, which, if you did the temperature conversions in your head like me, know that that's stupid cold. So, if cosmonauts get there first and say, we need to spread out on the Gold Coast of the moon, you're welcome to everywhere else. That's like Rose telling Jack, you're welcome to hang out anywhere else but this very stable plank with plenty of room for us to cuddle. If Richard Branson gets there first, he might say, now this is the Virgin Galactic Food Court. Toke up on the same space weed, then fourth meal at the Space Sabaros. This is the wild part of my mission as a real fake astronaut. I joined 5 European scientists for the first moon-based mission because all these billionaires are trying to build the best airplane to take us off this rock, but no one is focused on the airport when we need to land. Also, I went because I could, and why not join the cast of Real World Mars Edition as guy who's never gotten better than a B in any high school science class? So showed you, Dad. I went to fake space as the average Joe, but learned how to be a valuable contributor to this crew of scientists, engineers, researchers. I caught up with my space fam for a reunion just this past week. Space is hot right now, with 2 new comedy series out. As the first comedian with a real show about fake space, I spoke to a comedian about these fake shows about real space. JC Coccoli, what do you think about the Space Force, the actual one?
I invented the original Space Force in my head when I was in 6th grade. People were laughing about it, but I'm ready. I'm on board. I've already sent in 2 applications, both denied.
You have an album out with the track Dating in Outer Space. I don't know what you'd miss most, living off planet, but for me, it was privacy, Instagram, fresh fruit, sex. I miss sex on Earth too. How do you enjoy the modern space relationship? What are your thoughts on what that'll look like?
Earthmen are cool, but Earthmen, they're convoluted. They're watching too much internet. They need to be out in outer space so they can come down to Earth a bit. That's why I think this quarantine was good. It actually set a lot of us up for intergalactic space relationships.
It is very centering there in zero gravity, I'm sure. Yeah, for all those sensitive new age space guys.
And you were on the moon for 14 days,
Accurate.
Which I thought that show, Space Drop, was so cool. I would love to do the same thing. I would love to experience it. Solitude, loneliness, projects that involve taking out the trash, all things I do casually.
Now we have Space Force on Netflix. We have Moonbase 8 on Showtime. What are your thinking thoughts on the comedy itself, and maybe what kind of wonders of the unknown they might be missing from just sheerly space interests that you have?
I am waiting for more black hole based shows. I found Interstellar to be really fascinating in so many different ways. The tiers of dimensions. And when you're writing and constructing shows in space, you still want to ground it in that human emotion, whether it be drama or comedy. Did you listen to music while you're up there?
The I made the mistake of not loading up my my iPod.
Your iPod?
Yeah.
Oh my
God. So the only things that my European space crew listened to was like space songs and System of a Down. And that's like not a joke, that's just torture. So
because a lot of them were Dutch.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love System of a Down.
Yeah. We were one lunar cycle away from like Gwar, just straight Slipknot.
I live for Gwar. I live for Gwar. I was like, are you allowed to dress up as a monster and just perform for people?
It's true. Something we've definitely seen over the last 4 years is the unity necessary for Bill Pullman to save us from aliens is not necessarily present. I don't know. How can this space stuff bring us together?
Space is unity. You need all hands on deck, all eyes on deck, all hearts on deck. And you see it with the International Space Station. You see it in a lot of films. Super intelligent dorks that just love space and just want to explore. And it's a selflessness.
How do you recommend people get excited for bold incremental change? Like, what is that like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, what does it look like? Bold incremental change looks like you get into a hot bath and you read something really scary. You read that paperwork and you balance it. It's not going to be exactly what you want. It will let you down, and you keep pushing to get as close as you can to your goal and beyond. And that kind of perseverance, that kind of dedication is the kind that athletes take, the kind that leaders take, the kind that stay-at-home moms take. You have to have that approach.
I think that's some brilliant advice. Good for space, good for climate, good for Super Bowls, good for toddlers. Thank you so much, JC, for joining.
Stay good to each other. Watch some really great stuff. Watch The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. It's pretty spectacular.
Hold on one second. What show did you want? It does things. Look at him go.
Oh
Tickle me,
God.
Grogu, man.
Tickle me, Grogu. You're giving me everything I've ever wanted from a Skype call.
When do Americans hang out with Russians not to collude, but to collab? On the ISS. See if you can go a few days in public, even mid-pandemic, without seeing NASA t-shirts. Space is cool. Space unifies, makes us drop the politics and try to do something bigger than ourselves as co-people. My hope in humanity lies in the stars. And by that, I mean my early investment in Moonwater with 50 Cent. When we invest in impossible schemes up there, we just might solve some stuff down here and at least get a better microwave out of it. So say yes to funding research for peace and technology. Say yes to starting kids young on STEAM programs. And yes, President Biden, you should model the Space Force uniforms after Star Trek. No one will complain. That's our Bill Nye-style conspiracy show. Now that we're out of the woods on this election, almost, we can focus on issues. Solutions. What do you want to break down in ways that don't make you feel sad? Abortion? Are we ready for that? Lives mattering? Religion? Like, subscribe, let me know.